Paula Pant, the host of the Afford Anything podcast, likes to answer questions her listeners send in. This is a special episode where she also has Joe Saul-Sehy from the Stacking Benjamins show join in the fun.
Hi Paula, I've been listening to your show for about a year now, and I really like the diversity of financial topics you cover. I also follow the Afford Anything Facebook page, and all the pictures of you out doing awesome things keep me motivated to stay focused on my goals, so someday I can be out hiking on a random Tuesday afternoon too. Anyway, my question has to do with tax optimization on investment accounts. My fiance and I have saved $10,000 to start our FI journey using the Jim Collins method of investing in the VTSAX Admiral Shares. Should I just open a joint taxable brokerage account and be done with it? Or should we wait until we have doubled the $10,000 to $20,000 in order to each open a tax-sheltered IRA? You always say don't let the tail wag the dog when it comes to taxes, so I think I know your answer, but it took us the better part of our 4-year relationship to save this money, so I want to make sure I'm being as smart as possible with our initial investment. Ultimately, we want to have the flexibility to use this money before retirement age, which narrows it down to a Roth IRA or taxable brokerage account. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well as any additional factors we should take into consideration. Thanks.
First of all, thank you. I'm super flattered, and thank you so much for listening to this show for the past year and for following the Facebook page.
The whole reason that I'm here is I want to go hiking with you on a random Tuesday.
Oh, Joe, yeah. Well, just fly out. You can do that.
We
can totally do that. We'll record this show during a hike.
That'd be great. So, tax ramifications.
I know, right? Yeah. Completely out of breath. No, don't worry. I'm not like a hard charging hiker.
Good.
Yeah, I like to keep a moderate pace.
Well, you can't spill your beer.
Exactly. Camelback full of beer. But to your question, so VTSAX does require a minimum investment of $10,000. However, VTSAX, which, by the way, for the listeners who are wondering what we're talking about, just a little bit of background. So VTSAX is the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund. And that Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund actually has two different iterations. It has two different manifestations. One is called Investor Shares and the other is called Admiral Shares. Basically, the difference between the two is the expense ratio. The Investor Shares version of this fund has a higher expense ratio, but the Investor Shares version of this fund also requires a lower minimum investment, a minimum investment of only $3,000. So what you could do is each of you could open a Roth IRA. And I'm assuming that, and I don't know that within your relationship how that $10,000 would break up, but assuming that it would be $5,000 per person, you could each open a Roth IRA and make investments of $5,000 in that Roth IRA in VTSMX, which is the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund Investor Shares version. Now, that one has an expense ratio of 0.15, while the Admiral Shares version has an expense ratio of 0.04. So once you build it to 10,000, you could, then switch it over, but that'll at least get you into the index fund that you want to be in and enable you to do that in a tax advantaged account in a Roth IRA so that all of the capital gains and the dividends that you make on that investment can grow tax exempt. That being said, there's an ETF as well that tracks a very similar thing, the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF. The ticker symbol is VTI. Offhand, I don't recall if Vanguard allows you to buy ETFs in a Roth account. I don't remember that offhand, but if they do, that would be the other option because that one also has a 0.04 expense ratio. So if you're allowed to buy an ETF through your Roth account, that would be ideal. There's no minimum investment there. Joe, any thoughts?
Yeah, when it comes to the Roth IRA, remember that only the contributions are before, she talks about wanting the money available. Mm-hmm. So the contributions are available, but the money that it earns is going to have some hoops she's going to have to jump through. Mm-hmm. So if she wants it all available, the Roth isn't the way to go, which is why I was like starting off with when approximately, because you don't know for sure, but when approximately you're going to want to spend the money. And about how much you're going to want to spend, because, part of me, if she thinks she's going to want all of it, says forget the Roth, like you've said before, don't let the tax tail wag the dog, and just go with the flexible account. I mean, the turnover in the total stock market index isn't egregious. How about that for a bajillion-dollar word? It's not too horrible. So, she's going to pay a little bit of tax, but she'll have it available whenever she wants. So directionally, it's the right thing, and she doesn't have to worry about which hoops she jumps through to get her money.
Yeah. But see, my thinking, though, is that if her goal is early retirement, let's assume that that's within 10 to 20 years. We'll say 20 years. The principal contributions, assuming that she maxes out the Roth IRA every year, or even assuming that she doesn't, the principal, over a 20-year time span, I think the principal contributions made to a Roth IRA account will be significant, when compared to the capital gains and dividends that you'll make over a 10 to 20-year time span. And assuming that she goes with the 4% withdrawal rate, I don't think she'll really need to tap the capital gains and dividends. She can withdraw the principal and live on that while the remainder of the principal, as well as the capital gains and dividends, stay in the account. Again, I'm assuming that your strategy is entirely index fund based with a 4% withdrawal rate. So I'm basing this on that assumption.
What's interesting for me about the Roth IRA, just a little bit of a tangent, is that Roth IRAs are better the longer you leave the money in there, because, you have this tax-free withdrawal. So if I can build up a huge pot of money just using the rule of 72, compounding interest, Roth IRAs get more and more delicious the longer you leave them alone. So, and I know that's not the goal, right? I mean, the goal is to have the money available sooner. But one thing I really like is that if you've money in, let's say, a 401k that's pre-tax, and you have a Roth IRA, let's say in the future, the tax bracket line is at, I don't know, we'll say $50,000, and you're trying to live a $70,000 lifestyle. You take the first 55 out of that 401k where you paid tax or you didn't pay any tax going in, and now that's at the lower tax bracket. Then you take the other 15,000 out of the Roth, and now you're living midway up in the next tax bracket because you had both instead of one or the other. I really, really am a fan of that. When people ask me about, and this wasn't the question at all, but when people ask me the question about which one's better, the Roth or, traditional, which way do I go? I really like having them both so that later on I can play those games.
Right. I mean, and that's the other thing is with since your goal is early retirement, you can, if you had money in any type of traditional account, after you retire early, assuming that you will be in a lower tax bracket upon entering early retirement than you are now, that's when you can do a Roth conversion. That's when you can roll over those funds. So if you make those contributions to a trad account now and then roll over upon retirement, you will be paying a lower interest rate on those. That said, however, it sounds as though the chief concern is, how do I put this money into an account that will allow me to withdraw it easily and without risk of penalty. And yeah, a taxable brokerage account is the best for that. However, you're not going to get any kind of tax benefit. So that's why I like the Roth. It's simple. You can withdraw the principal whenever you need, and then you can move on with your life and enjoy your early retirement.
Ta-da.
There's a great article on Mad Fientist's website. I'll link to it in the show notes. And this article on his site walks through various ways to access retirement funds early. He talks about the trad to Roth rollover. He also talks about the 72T rule. What's it called? SEPP 72T?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know me.
Yeah, exactly. You down at 72T?
we got to do that.
So I'll link to that article in the show notes, because that is the most comprehensive, outside of the IRS's website itself, it is the most comprehensive guide to accessing retirement funds early that I have ever encountered.
Hey, did you enjoy this excerpt from the Afford Anything podcast? Then be sure to subscribe to Paula's YouTube channel. Not only is every podcast episode and Ask Paula question released here on YouTube, other creative deep thought videos are created just for you. Remember, you can watch anything, just not everything. Fill your YouTube viewing time with more videos to make you think and grow so you can afford anything. Go ahead, hit that little red subscribe button. We'll take care of the rest.